You mentioned you're a Red Sox fan. I know you were born in South Korea and you follow the Red Sox, bred in Boston, as your Twitter bio says. And you follow all different sports. I went through your Twitter. I saw you were live tweeting the NBA celebrity game. You had one of my favorite articles about a young Kylian Mbappe when he was before the two World Cups, before he became like an international superstar. So I appreciate that as a soccer fan, the covers that you had back then. But what brings you to Tampa to baseball following the Yankees right now for this short time?
I mean, I've been covering kind of East Coast baseball for a couple years now with ESPN. So the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Mets are kind of the primary focuses that I have. And I was in jury duty for a month before this, and so I got a late start to my season and need to make the spring training rounds and just fill out the notebook before baseball season starts. I was in Red Sox camp working on a Rafael Devers story that I got to write tonight, and then Mets camp was working on a story about just Eduardo Escobar and the third base situation there with guys like Brett Beatty coming along, and how he's kind of providing leadership for that clubhouse and providing a lot of like intangible stuff off the field that I think is hard to see if you're just like watching the games on TV. And then here at Yankees camp, monitoring for news, and also Anthony Volpe. So he's kind of I think the big hot story for the team this season, because he's kind of the big variable for what the ceiling for this team could be. So just trying to like figure things out and say hi to guys before the season starts, and everyone's in a good mood before opening day because you haven't won or lost any games yet. And so just reintroduce myself to guys, asking them how their off season went, asking them where they went on vacation, that kind of stuff.
I was gonna say, what are the vibes like over there?
The vibes at Yankee camp, I mean, they're always serious. Like the Yankees are just the most corporate of all the baseball teams. I think that like people come to the ballpark, people are very, very serious. Like there's a lot of pressure. The vibes at the Red Sox camp and the Mets camp are always looser, and that's just generally true across the board. Like when I was in the Red Sox clubhouse, like the old Mets reliever Joely Rodriguez, he was just like singing very loudly and just like energizing guys and like challenging guys to like one-on-one mini basketball in the clubhouse. Like you would just never see that at Yankee spring training. Like the Mets have like last year a ping pong table and a pool table. That's nowhere to be seen at Yankee Stadium. So people come there. It's like an office. Like every single locker is like a cubicle, and you do your work and you like go to the back and avoid the media and eat your dinner or whatever before the game. Whereas like the Red Sox and the Mets, they kind of hang out in the clubhouse more and enjoy themselves a little bit more in front of the media.
Punch in, punch out.
Yes.
As someone covering the Yankees, is that something that's frustrating for you with in terms of access to players? Like, I know the Yankees PR team are like a well-oiled machine in terms of how they interact with people. What's that like for you?
Uh, it's usually fine about stuff. Like for the most part, if I'm not asking guys questions for a story, I'm usually just trying to talk to them about like what music they're listening to or what they're watching, or like I was talking to Michael King today about the Patriots because we're both big Patriots fans and he's from New England. And so we were talking about like our frustrations with Mac Jones, and he said that the Patriots should try to get another quarterback, and all this that's the kind of like small talk that you just like try to drum up in the locker room. Because like as much as I love baseball, like I kind of like love pop culture. I love every other sport, football, basketball, soccer, especially. And so I don't know, I'm always just trying to like develop relationships with guys by talking about everything other than the wins and losses, because that's almost always the last thing they want to talk about. And thankfully, I'm in a position at ESPN where like I'm not really covering the day to day in the same way as a lot of other writers are, and so I'm kind of the guy that like will go to Francisco Lindor and ask about like his signature sneaker line and what he's working on, and like the process of developing a signature sneaker. And I'm going to Jake knows Adam Ottavino. Like I'm going to Adam and I'm talking about like his new camera and like what he's shooting, and all the weird gear that he has like preparing for the clubhouse. Like last year, Trevor Williams, who's on the Nationals now, he's a big Star Wars fan. I'm an enormous Star Wars fan, so we just like talk about uh initially the Boba Fett show and then like the Obi-Wan show. And we just like give each other takes about like what we liked and what we didn't like. And so that's usually what I'm trying to do in clubhouses. So like, it's the vibe is just like a tone setter. I just try to like engage with guys one on one, try to figure out like, hey, is there any common interest? Because I listen to a lot of music and watch a lot of movies and try to consume a diverse range of things to try to find for me to enjoy just generally, but also like it usually helps me just like find common ground and talk to guys about stuff.
Yeah, my time at the lab, like that's just one thing that I kind of realized is like at the end of the day, they're just dudes that like baseball's their job, but like they have a bunch of other interests. They like the same foods we like. They like the same bands we like, maybe different ones that they can recommend to you. So, I mean, the first thing that I noticed with Ottavino, honestly, was like whenever I walked in there was during the lockout, and he was taking like a lot of stills of guys throwing their pens. I was like, damn, he likes a lot of he just likes photography more than I expected him to. So it's just really cool to see them in their different elements like that.
Yeah, Adam and I we worked on a story during the pandemic when he was with the Yankees where he took a bunch of like COVID photos basically behind the scenes and we ended up publishing all of them on ESPN.com and I wrote I kind of just interviewed him. This is the first time I like had a long interaction with Adam. Where we just kind of went through and just like I looked at all the photos, I just asked him to describe the story behind all of them. And I was a photo editor in high school, and Adam and I both had like the cameras, and so we kind of had this like middle ground. So I remember the first time I talked to him, we just like talked about cameras, and he's just gone like this like full frame Hasselblad, like big. It's like a big camera nerd camera,
Yeah.
and it's like the type of it's like an expensive camera that you like use to like take photos that end up on billboards because of like the megapixel count is enormous, and so he was just like a big photo nerd, and I was just like, there's not that many athletes that are this passionate and nerdy about something that's not baseball. And so I tend to gravitate towards those athletes, not even just baseball players in general, where it's like guys who clearly love whatever sport they're playing, but they have hobbies outside of it. Like Jameson Time used to talk about like just the restaurants that he would eat on the road because he's like a big foodie and like a not just like the like going to fancy restaurants type of way, going to every Michelin star restaurant. Like he had like opinions about like the way that food had evolved and all this stuff since during his career. So like that's the type of stuff that I try to type of conversation that I try to like drum up in the clubhouse. I think it's always fun to get these opinions from these guys because they have very unique perspectives on the world just by being professional athletes and having access to a lot of things and a lot of money. So it's always pretty interesting to kind of try to find these common ground points.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I know you mentioned the Yankees being super corporate, and we definitely feel that too, and even that kind of comes through in terms of the vibe of the ballpark and who goes to games in certain sections. But something that really struck, I think, our emotions over the offseason was Aaron Judge finally being named captain after getting that extension. And I think you were able to be at that press conference live.
Yes, I was.
Yeah, what were the vibes? How did that feel?
It was very festive. Um, it just felt like a lot of history in the room because you saw like Willie Randolph was there and Derek Jeter was like a surprise showing, and it was just like Hal Steinbrenner was there, and just felt like the weight and the gravity of the moment because like in kind of the hallway that leads up to the Yankee press conference room, there's these like enormous, larger than life photos of like Yogi Berra and Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle and Mariano Rivera, and just like you see all of that kind of leading up, and then you see like some of the history in that room. For baseball nerd, it's just like it feels very heavy in like a really awesome way. You could sense the polish of the event, like it was like obviously a press conference, but it was almost like a made for TV spectacle too. Like Yankees PR clearly had like a very clear vision for like, all right, it's gonna be like a 30-minute thing, and we're gonna run through all these stages of the event. Like it was like Yankees PR put together like a symphony on how to put on a TV show of a press conference almost. And then like afterwards, we were kind of shuffled into like one of the luxury suite cafeteria areas, and there was like the cycle of like Aaron Boone and Hal Steinbrenner and Derek Jeter and Aaron Judge. They all circled in and out, and we all like had conversations with all of them. And it was just like it was like a corporate efficiency trying to maximize this like storytelling all at once. And I don't know, it was very Yankees. It was like very and I don't mean this in like a condescending or like a shade kind of way, but it was like a very self-important because like the Yankees are very into their own mystique and they kind of lead into that. I think and if you're a Yankee fan, like I imagine that it is very emotional and it hits really hard because you just feel I think the Yankees are really good at tying together the history of the team into kind of the importance of the organization, the importance of the brand, not just in sports, but around the world. And I think that events like that are when you really, really feel that and you understand like why the Yankees are so important to so many people around the world.
Yeah, I was working from home up at my girlfriend's family's house in Saratoga Springs, upstate, and both of them grew up Yankees fans. And their favorite player, they always say, was Thurman Munson growing up. So I was working from home, and then on Yes, they're like, "Oh, the Yankees have this press conference for Judge." I'm like, "Okay, it's gonna happen now." And when I told them that he was named captain, they like cheered. They like got emotional. They jumped up and down, and we put it on the TV and we watched it together. But yeah, the Yankees definitely do really well with the history. Obviously, it's part of what draws us to them, but they're unique in that sense with how they do it. A lot of other places have history, but the Yankees have a way of doing things.
Yeah, I think it's just like when you're the New York Yankees and you have as much money as the New York Yankees do, you can put on a show with resources in a way that no other franchise can. Like, as a Red Sox fan, the Red Sox also really lean into their history. They have a Hall of Fame. They have all this stuff. They have a team historian. But the Red Sox don't make as much money as the New York Yankees do, and you can feel that in like the scale of the spectacle that the Yankees put on that no other team in baseball can possibly have the resources to do. And I think when you combine all of those things, you really feel the grandeur of the moment in a way that I think is impossible for any other organization to pull off.
It's like watching Toy Story for the first time or like Star Wars for the first time.
Yeah, 100%. Like Star Wars is Star Wars, obviously because it's really good storytelling, but there is a level of scale to the movie that you just feel that takes it to another level. Like I watched Titanic for the first time a couple of weeks ago because it was kind of one of my big movie gaps, and we went to the movie theater. My girlfriend, we went to the movie theater to watch it, and when you watch that movie, you know they recreated the boat for that movie, and then they sank it, and it's like you can't like it's different than watching a CGI boat sink. You know, like it's just different. You see the people, flailing, and it's like, oh, this is like it takes the movie to just a complete other level. Like it makes the immersion just like another level. I mean, like people talk about all the time with the Avatar movies, like this is actually have a cultural impact, and you can debate that, one way or the other. But it's undeniable that when you go to an Avatar movie that's directed by James Cameron, you're going to be transported into another world for 3 hours. Maybe, a half hour too long, but like you're going to be in that world for 3 hours. And that's like, even if people don't feel the same type of emotional connections to the characters of Avatar that they do to like Star Wars or Marvel, the reason people still go to see Avatar 2 is like, it's just a complete escape from the world. And I think that kind of scale is what the Yankees bring that I think is literally impossible for any other team in baseball and really in sports to, I think, due to that scale because how big the Yankee brand is internationally. I mean, you could compare it to any other like sports team in terms of their international reach. I would say the Lakers are kind of the only team that have a similar reach and mystique. That's kind of it though. And I say that as a Celtics fan, like the Lakers because of Kobe and all that history, like they reach an international audience that no other basketball team does. And I think the Yankees are also similar in that regard.
Yeah, it's transcendent of just baseball alone.
Yeah, absolutely.